Oh my, and she did another one, February 25th. Oh, where are we? Here we are. Do you see? Hey. I guess she's got no views on it right now. So, let's see.
And as per my first video you responded to, I don't think that you read the caption or read my little description down at the bottom. So I'll just tell it to you right here. So you keep talking to these social workers and yeah, this has been here for 15 years. You, in your head, it should already click in your head. You're saying it's been here for 15 years, untouched for 15 years. Get rid of it. Get rid of it. Like, how do you even say that without even thinking what you're really saying? Not all up here, Miss Judy. Talking about, I'm going to make this for Amari. Look how old he is. You haven't made nothing for him. Give it up. Give it up. Just throw it up. And as for Tisha wanting to come to Edmonton, tell her we don't want her here. Okay? Go to St. Vincent. And as per my first video you responded to, I don't think that you read the caption or read my little description down at the bottom. So I'll just tell it to you right here. So you keep talking to these social workers and yeah, this has been here for 15 years. You, in your head, it should already click in your head. You're saying it's been here for 15 years, untouched for 15 years. Get rid of it. Get rid of it. Like, how do you even say that without even thinking what you're really saying? Not all up here, Miss Judy. Talking about, I'm going to make this for Amari. Look how old he is. You haven't made nothing for him. Give it up. Give it up. Just throw it up. And as for Tisha wanting to come to Edmonton, tell her we don't want her here. Okay? Go to St. Vincent. And as per my first video you responded
Okay,
to,
this girl,
I don't think that
she's the perfect example of somebody that watches my videos and then thinks they know everything. Yeah. But you know what? I got a long day ahead of me, and honestly, I'm too tired for this nonsense. Okay. I guess she made herself a little video, because you know she's been egging to do this for quite a while. Right? What's the title on this one? Oh my lord. I need a coffee. Clout for you. The only daily play you get to indulge in. At New Nations Unity at ShaMay Chorney. Let's go to videos. Let's see. So she came in and she took out a whole bunch of videos, right, about baby Hayden, and I don't know. Rumor is Cheeseburger died. I don't know. I don't know if she knows that. Yeah, or is it just a rumor? I don't know. Anyway, she took out a whole bunch of videos because she's got herself a hubby now. So I guess she's trying to, I don't know what she's trying to do, but I don't really care. So her last video, prior to the ones that she took out, is 2 years ago. And she just did this one with 3 views. It's those brain munchers, people. Yeah. These people, they never wanted me to talk about ShaMay being murdered. They try to make it where they tried to make it where I thought I had no right to talk about that. So that's where the harassment comes in and the threats and all that crap. Yeah, you know, if you talk about something, you're gonna, you know, we're gonna extort you, right? We're gonna come and beat you up, like, you know, threatening all the time, right? To do this and do that or whatever, right? Hood rat crap, right? Yeah, my daughter, my right, I can talk all I want. If I felt that she died in a car accident and it was just an accident, I would have said it was just an accident. Would I have dwelled on it as much as murder? Well, obviously not, because it was a car accident, a legitimate car accident. But when you're dealing with murder, and then multiple murders, with young people dying like flies all across the province, yeah, I was talking to Tisha, and she mentioned it. She knows at least 17 people from her childhood, as she was growing up, who are dead. Yeah, yeah, well, that's unusual. That's not normal, okay? Okay, so I got my coffee. And needless to say, I'm feeling kind of worn out here, but I got about 5 hours of washing dishes, picking up Amari's Pediasure cans. You know, Andre's not very good at the recycling part of things. Just yada-yada. Perhaps having to wash some more dishes, because I don't know exactly what's in the rack. He makes an attempt, but oftentimes he's not getting the grease off it, or he's not scrubbing off with his nail. I tell him you gotta use your nail, or use a rag, or use a SOS, or let it soak a little longer. Make sure you have the soapy water, you know, with it warm, you know, hot, warm. And then when you're rinsing, especially if it's greasy, make sure you use warm water to rinse it off. And anyway, it takes me about 4 hours, and that's, you know, washing and sweeping the floor, or whatever. That's the whole sweep, right? And because I've been busy for, you know, several days in a row doing other things, it gets backlogged. So, and then laundry, something this human knows nothing about when it comes to looking after a disabled child, never mind any kind of child, on a regular basis. She'll be the kind of mom that will be using diapers all the time. Yeah, like Pampers and Huggies, like bought diapers. When I had my 5 kids, I did 7.5 years of cloth diapers. Yeah, I very ever had a manufactured diaper. No, it was all cloth. Even when I went out, I was using cloth diapers. I put my face cloths wet. I'm tired, man. Face cloths wet. You know, it's squeezed out in Ziploc bags. And that's what I'd use when I'd go out, with cloth diapers and rubber pants. Yeah. You'd have to rinse out the poo in the toilet, you know, squeeze the diaper. Oh my God, now I'm going to sneeze now. Put the diaper in the diaper bucket, and then the diaper bucket fills up, and then you squeeze everything out. That's gross, because it sits for 2 days, 3 days, right? It's a 2-day, 3-day cycle, right? In those days, they had a diaper pail powder, and now you can't find it anymore, right? Because I guess they don't want you using cloth diapers. Either or, because you don't really want bleach, because the bleach will eat the cotton, right? So anyway, I suppose you could use a bit of baking soda. I haven't quite figured out what I'll be using if and when I can start using cloth diapers with Omari, because I want to, you know, have him in cloth diapers at least for part of the day, right? For comfort. But of course I'm busy, and I didn't have a place for a diaper pail. So as things progress, I'm hoping to bring in a diaper pail, because you need a diaper pail for that. Alright, otherwise it ain't gonna work. And then you wash them, you dry them, and I used just the straight triangle or square cotton, so you'd have to fold them up, and there's a different way to fold for a girl than there is for a boy. Right? So, yeah, something this person doesn't know anything about. Anyway, if she's so happy, why is she doing this? You know, bragging on about how happy she is. You know, you're so far away. What the hell do you care? You got away with murder. And clearly you don't care about 17 other young people dying out here, and that's what we know of. And Tisha said that's just off the top of her head. In other words, there's more. Yeah, those are the ones that she could name. Yeah, you don't see that girl getting all stressed out about that crap. Well, I wonder why. Right? There's a lot of hot capping going on out here, people. Murder. Yeah, that's where people are lacing other people's stuff. Whether it's cigarettes and then coming in and knocking them on the head, like ShaMay was knocked on the head, and then shooting them up when they're all, whatever, knocked out. Because ShaMay had a bruise on her forehead, remember? Yeah, if you watch that video where I exposed that through exposure, that's because Julian came up and whacked her on the head. And then because she was already out of it with the fentanyl, with the medical fentanyl from the smoking, right? And as we just grabbed her and shot her up with a speedball to cover up murder. Yeah, that's exactly what happened. He ignored her for 2.5 weeks. Wouldn't talk to her, wouldn't go to and come and sign the papers for that, to put ShaMay's name on the birth certificate for the federal government. And then all of a sudden, magically, he shows up after her cigarettes get laced, and there's only one place for those cigarettes to get laced, and only one person that would do it, right? Yeah. So I guess we'll just listen to this. Alright, so she's so cocky. Something in the description box. There's nothing in the description box. Okay, so what's this one? Clout for you. I don't need clout. The only daily play you get to indulge in. Oh. At New Nations Unity at ShaMay Chorney. I think I already read that. Okay. Let's see.
Okay, so we're just gonna do this one more time because I know that you're a little not all the way up here, a little bit dense, and you're slow.
And she couldn't do it in a more quieter place, right?
Keep making these accusations without any physical proof. Can you?
That's your opinion. I have the timeline. That's all I need. That's the proof. There were only certain kind of people around her. You were one of them. Your mother was one of them, and Julie was around one of them. After ShaMay left your mother's house, right? It was a Saturday, eh? What was it? April 7th, I think it was. She was dead by the 11th. She took Amari to your mother's house on April 7th. Have videos and pictures of that. And then she went to an African wedding. Her friends from Gateway Place, when they were growing up. Some of them grew up, the kids, and they were getting married. So she was holding other children's babies from that African party. Right? But her smokes had already been laced because she went to your mother's house first, where you were living, and Julian. You were both living there. There's only one place where those smokes got laced, and that was your house, and that's just the bottom line. Ain't nobody lacing ShaMay's cigarettes at a African party. The Africans love ShaMay. She had a lot of African friends, so I don't know what the hell you're talking about. Okay, in terms of, I don't know what the timeline is. And you can convince yourself that I don't have a right to talk about the murder of my daughter, because that's what you've been trying to do since day one. Because you don't want nobody to talk about it. Because you're hoping it will just go away, and that's the point of being premeditated murder. People don't like to get caught, so they don't want other people investigating it. They don't want other people thinking about it. They don't want other people talking about it, because they're hoping that what they did will just be hidden and buried and never come to the surface. But it's there. It's always been on the surface. And that's why I know about it, okay? It's called clues, and we put the clue together, and 1 + 1 = 2, and you're number 2. Well, you're number 1. Julian was number 2. Julian couldn't have done it unless you laced ShaMay smokes. Somebody had to lace her smokes and knock her out first by making her sick, nauseated, and sleepy to the point where she would just sit in a chair and pass out. Okay? But, I mean, who would think that she was smoking medical fentanyl? No. Most people would just, oh, you're sick, something's wrong with you, go lay down. Yeah, right. And then he showed up at 6:30 in the morning on April 11th. 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th. No, it was 3 days. So it had to be the 9th. 9th, 10th, and 11th. So ShaMay was at your mother's house on the 9th of April. And then she went straight to the African wedding. She was home on Sunday with me upstairs doing all her computer work, feeling sicker than a dog. Then she went out on Monday. Yeah. Feeling like sicker than a dog, doing all her paperwork for school, submitted whatever she needed to submit for the college and yada yada. And then Julian showed up at 6:30 in the morning after Monday. Either or, the timeline is already written out. I may have the days wrong, but it's a 3-day window. Where was Julian to sign the papers for the federal government so that ShaMay could put her name on Amari's birth certificate, so that when she wanted to go to Tacoma and go see her dad, it was easy to cross over the border and get, like, it would be easier for her to get a passport for Amari, right, to cross over to the border. As a matter of fact, I don't even think Amari needed a passport. She just needed her name on the birth certificate. And you guys didn't want that, because you thought in your head always that you were going to get Amari, and you plot and you schemed. And this is what happened. She was murdered. And you played right into that hand. Your mother and Julian came the next day in the morning to come pick up Amari. Right day after ShaMay was murdered. Yeah, but he got papers instead. That's what happened. Yeah. Yeah.
Show me the.
Well, I went to court the next morning, and when he showed up, I guess whenever that was the first thing he wanted was Amari. And Tisha was here. And what happened? She said no. Mom said no. He said, oh, please, let me see Amari in the garage for 5 minutes. So Tisha came upstairs, and what did Julian do? Knocked on the door, right? Opened the door, did something, said to Marcane that he needed to go get his bag, which was bullshit, because he brought his bag when he was running away from your mother's house there as a rouge to cover up what he was going to do when he got here in terms of murdering ShaMay. When he damn well seen his bag sitting on the floor in the laundry room, and he beelined down the hall, and he put ShaMay's phone back into the bedroom. Because when he killed ShaMay, he ran off with her phone, because she was probably on her phone, because she did a Snapchat, and soon after the Snapchat, she was dead. So her phone was active when he took the phone. Yeah, and then he had to come back and put the phone back the next day. Yeah, that's exactly what happened. That's right, I served him in the evening after getting back from court. Like, he showed up at 4 or something dumb like that, because I went to court at 8 o'clock in the morning after ShaMay was murdered. Marcane took me. Yeah, and he ran down the hall, put the phone back, and the phone wasn't there before, because are you calling Paige a liar? Are you calling Tisha? I know you'd call Tisha a liar, but are you calling Paige a liar too? Both of them took that room apart looking for that phone, looked all over in the living room. There was no phone, not until Julian came back. Coming looking for his bag and trying to think that he was going to walk off with the baby with his mom. Yeah, right. No, he came back to put back the phone. And if he thought he could get the baby, he would have done that, because that was the whole point. Yeah. That was the whole point.
Scientific papers clearing saying that ShaMay's cigarettes were laced. Did you get the cigarettes?
Well, whatever you're saying there, I don't think too many people can hear it. Clearly, I didn't hear that.
The scientific papers clearly saying that ShaMay's cigarettes were laced. Did you...
Medical fentanyl. Where would she get medical fentanyl from? Isn't your mother's hands something wrong with her hands? Because when I had those pictures, I zoomed in on her hands, and it looks like she's got like rheumatism coming or something. Honestly, I think the medical fentanyl belongs to your mother. Or maybe Julian got it on the drug market, on the underground economy there, you know. Maybe because he with his drugs, all his drugs were laced. All the drugs he was selling to the public was laced. So, where he got his fentanyl from, I don't know. Because street fentanyl is different than medical fentanyl. But being that she was at your mother's house, and it looks like your mother has some kind of weird health problems with her joints or something, from what I could tell when I zoomed in on her hands, right? Or whatever, you know. Or maybe she's got back problems or something. Who knows? But somebody in your house is using medical fentanyl. There's a difference between street fentanyl and medical fentanyl. And I don't think drug dealers lace street drugs with medical fentanyl. No, I don't. And yeah, it's in her medical files. Medical fentanyl. You see, that's the key. That's the clue. That's the justice peeking up its head from what you try to bury by saying I can't talk about it. But that's your problem. I deal with my problem, which means I have a dead daughter, and, you know, the one that would have helped me the most with Amari is dead, right? You know what I'm saying? Where you have the problem of having to carry this burden with you onto your deathbed. And sooner or later, you're going to have to face your maker. But God doesn't like ugly. And when people go around purposely murdering people, you know, as in a psychopath or whatever, they don't believe in God. So you probably don't even think there's a heaven. And if you do, you probably... What makes you think you're going to get in there? Because you're just a hoodlum. You going to change your ways on your deathbed? Ask God to forgive you on your deathbed while you cause trouble your whole life because of your attitude or self-righteousness or whatever motivates you to be that hoodlum that likes to threaten people? And even after all this time, you're hoping to see me? Why? Why would you want to see me? So I can see you. Why? To me, that's a threat, because you've already done it in the past. So, okay.
Cigarettes. Did you get them tested?
Only one place the medical fentanyl was placed. That's the only way it got into her system. She'd smoke a cigarette and she'd get dizzy. She'd pass out 20 minutes after smoking a cigarette. Yeah, I'm just saying. But we don't think like you, right? We're not hood rats. So we didn't know that it was that easy to hot cap somebody and to premeditate their death. Okay, Julian, yeah, because that was his lifestyle. You, yeah, because that's your attitude and your mentality and the lifestyle that you chose at that time, in terms of being that, wanting to run that little whorehouse that you were trying to put together. So, you know, between you and your brother, you guys thought that you were the max in all of British Columbia, Canada. He was going to run the shack, and you were going to run the brothel. That's why you wanted to have ShaMay put everything in her name. So when the shit went down, you guys would scurry like rats and have her be blamed for everything. That's why I fought so hard to get him out of this house. You guys couldn't give up, though. You didn't give up, right? I'm not going to ever say ShaMay made the mistake by keeping Amari. I'm never going to say that. right? You know, it'd be so easy for me to say, you know, if she would never have had Amari, this maybe never would have happened, because there would have been no reason for you guys to kill her, because you did it because you thought you were going to get Amari the next day, and that's just the bottom freaking line. And plus you wanted to put Freddie in check, both of you, right? You didn't like the idea that ShaMay was going back with Freddie. And yeah, so the sickness is within your family. Yeah. I had to check on Amari. Anyway, for all we know, that medical fentanyl could have came. Well, honestly, I believe it was your mother's. I think it was in the house. I think your mother was the user, because I think she's got some sort of medical issues and she needed that pain relief, or maybe she stole it from the prenatal clinic, from the, you know, where they lock up that kind of stuff, right, in the clinic itself, because of yada. It came from your house, that's for sure. I don't think it came from Julian, unless of course maybe he ordered it specifically as a distraction, because he knew that, you know, blood tests would be made, so it made it look like it was something she chose to take for herself, to which she wasn't taking any kind of pain medication when it came to fentanyl and all that crap. So no, her smokes were laced. I was here when she'd get dizzy. I was here when she'd fall asleep. I was here when she was nauseated, okay? She'd smoke a cigarette and within 20 minutes she'd be passing out in a chair. So, you know, there was a reason for that, but who would think that she was being murdered? It was just the precursor for the final act of murder. And then again, your brother showed up the next day asking to take the baby, right? And then running into ShaMay's room, dropping off her phone, telling Tisha that he needs to go look for ShaMay's phone, even though Paige and Tisha had already tore up the house looking for that phone. And then Tisha went into the bedroom, and magically that phone was on ShaMay's dresser, where two people had already looked 10 times. So what does that tell you, right? Why did Julian have to go into her bedroom when he can clearly see his bag sitting there in the laundry room by the door? Because he was planting back what he stole after he killed her. Yeah. Those are facts. Those are facts that the government doesn't want to look at in a court of law when I filed that lawsuit, because they don't want to start putting hood rats like you in the thousands in jail, because there's thousands of you with your type of mentality in this province, and that's the problem. And that's why there's more than 17 dead young people that Tisha, only one person that Tisha knows of all her childhood acquaintances and friends, people who used to come to the park events when I used to do park events when Tisha was little, people who used to live at Gateway Place as a family with, you know, kids, right? The kids, and, you know, those kids, most of them are dead now. Why? Oh, but we don't notice that, though, because there's so many immigrants around. That's all you see, people. But they're not the kids that grew up here. They're mostly dead now, and the government covers it up. And they protect people like you and your brother, because you give the government workers, the ones that are committing these heinous crimes to prop up that underground economy, what they want. Otherwise, your all asses would be in jail, and there'd be thousands of you across this province in jail. So what, is that why the government doesn't do anything about it? Because they don't want to pay to lock your ass up? In the numbers of the thousands who like to go around hot capping people, premeditate this and premeditate that? Yeah, right. No, they're harvesting body parts. That's what they're doing. And they're using peons, little F-tards like you and your brother and people like you to facilitate that underground economy, while you sit up there and think you got clout as you threaten elderly women who bust their butt to do the right thing by looking after a disabled child. Yeah, because the mother was murdered. I'd still be helping to look after Amari if ShaMay was alive. But she's dead. That was the game. Yeah. That's why I said Julian showed up the next day. 2 reasons. Put the phone back in ShaMay's room and walk off with the baby. Well, he managed to put the phone back, but he got served with court papers. And we can thank, I guess you could say, MCFD for that one, because that's what I learned when Andre was illegally apprehended, and how to deal with that problem, knowing that Julian was going to come back the next day and demand to take the baby, because that was the point. That was the point. Because he was a guaranteed welfare check for you people. Neither one of you were working, and if you were working, you were a whore. If Julian was working, he was a drug dealer. It was a slam dunk to get Amari and go on welfare. Put Freddie in his place, right? Hoping Freddie would go back to you. Yeah, right. 17 dead people, and that's what you advocate for. Yeah.
Can we see the results of those tests? Okay. And if not that, you keep saying the cops and Julian were in it together. When do you ever hear a black man and the cop? When do you ever hear a black man and a police officer in cohorts together?
Oh, don't even try and play that freaking race card. Seriously. Dirty drug dealers and dirty cops is just one big dirty pile of dirtiness. Okay? There is no color code to be a dirty cop and a dirty drug dealer. Like I said, Julian gave the dirty cops what they wanted, a dead body, and the dirty cops, gave the dirty drug dealer what he wanted, which was the freedom to continue to sell drugs. All right? It was an equal partnership between the two of them. Multiply that by thousands of people across this province, and it just becomes one big cover-up. And that's why you've got thousands of people dead under the umbrella of, they did it to themselves. They should have known better. It was fentanyl laced in their drugs. Yeah, right. It's being done with intent. And that's why the government threw it out. Because they like the revenue that comes from that criminal activity. Because it props up the underground economy. And it feeds that middle class style income through the healthcare system and yada yada yada. Whoever's got their fingers in the freaking cookie jar, including the doctors and the nurses that dote over dead bodies as they're being displayed as something to be alive, when in fact they're not, as a cover-up. Don't play a race card.
Never. So if you have the proof of that...
Where's the proof of never? You're so wise and wisdomably, there is no such word. You're so wise and... prove to me that dirty cops don't hook up with dirty freaking drug dealers. That's why they're called dirty.
Do you have the officer's name, badge number, do you have the date and time? And you don't...
I have a file number, obviously, yada yada, but you're not significant. What's significant is the government stepping up to the plate and putting people like you into jail. That's where the difference will come. That's where the lives will be saved. Because, for all you know, in another 15 more years, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, maybe even 22 years, because ShaMay got murdered at age 22, you might be the next one crying over a dead child. Right? Might be your child who will get hot capped with a new drug that the government uses as a means to depopulate so they can bring in the immigrants and keep up with the format, just, right? And keep up with that supply and demand. Your child might be the next number on that targeted list for organ harvesting. And when that number is called, all they have to do is send in someone like you and Julian to do the job. And it might be a black cop that your ass will be looking at, right? Coming to you saying your child did it to themselves. When that black cop damn well knows it's a racket. Yeah.
Don't stop talking. Next thing is, I just woke up. I got my 9 to 5 girl. Got my 9 to 5 girl.
You just woke up and that's the first thing on your mind? You know what the first thing on my mind was? Oh my God, I gotta do dishes. I have to pick up all Mari's. I have to do the recycling, and you know Andre's been giving Amari his Pediasures as I'm doing other things. So I got a whole bunch of Pediasure cans that I have to put into a box and get them out into recycling. And, I got to do laundry, and that's what I'm thinking about when I get up. And then I have to carry down some stuff downstairs, and you know what I'm saying? I keep a pretty steady pace. You do a 9 to 5. Yeah, okay, whatever. So what? You make it sound like you're the only one that ever does that in this world. And what you gonna do? Put your baby in a... what is that called? Because Alberta is famous for their daycare centers, where they stack and pack the babies in the daycare center. Is that what you're going to do when you go back to your 9 to 5? Put the baby into a daycare center where there's 7 other babies in there with a whole bunch of toddlers running around? Be that working mom who's gone for like 10 hours a day? Yeah, okay. Bragging on about your big house and how happy you are? Okay.
Anyhow, lastly,
I hope for your sake you don't have a child like Amari, because you wouldn't make it. And you better be prepared to cut off your nails, or not glue them back on, I should say. Don't be thinking that you can raise a baby with nails that are like 2 inches long, because it ain't gonna happen. Right?
the day ShaMay came and brought the baby over.
Oh, the day that ShaMay came and brought the baby over.
To visit, it's because my mom saw Tisha at the clinic. You're right about she saw Tisha at the clinic. But what was said was not badgering her at all. My mom does not care.
Your mom badgered Tisha, because she kept saying it every time Tisha went to the clinic. Yeah. Yeah. And then what? ShaMay went... Are we blaming the Africans across the street now for killing ShaMay? No, I don't think so. And those Africans that she was with were the Africans that she grew up with at Gateway Place. The ones that came from Darfur, from a refugee camp, right? You know what I'm saying? Where there was like a thousand tents under the sun in the desert, where they got 1 jug of sour milk a week for their family. And it was a family of 5 kids and 2 adults waiting to come to Canada. And then they moved into Gateway Place. And my daughter was adopted by them in terms of a family. So these were like family for her. They didn't lace her cigarettes. There's only one place ShaMay's cigarettes got laced, and that was at your mother's house, and that's just the bottom line. And yeah, your mother was badgering Tisha more than once. Oh, I want to see the baby. I haven't seen the baby for a little while. And ShaMay saying, Julian, take me to your mother's house. I don't want to go see your mother by yourself because she makes me uncomfortable. Because your mother's a fucking weirdo, right? And Julian didn't want to do it. And then he ignored her because he didn't want to sign the papers so that ShaMay could go see her dad with the birth certificate with her name on it, and not be having to get a letter from Julian to say that it was okay for Amari to cross over the border, because her name wasn't on the birth certificate. If she had her name on the birth certificate, she didn't need Julian in that stupid letter, and Julian didn't want to freaking do it. Instead, he decided to kill her, and within a few weeks, she was dead. And you helped him to do it, because you both sat there and talked about it and figured it out, because it was premeditated. It doesn't take a brain surgeon to figure it out. And this is where the government is failing the general population and putting thousands of young people at risk, regardless of their ethnic heritage. They could be Native, they could be Caucasian, they could be Black, they could be Punjabi, they could be Mandarin, they could be Chinese, they could be a Muslim. It doesn't matter. They could be from fucking, say, from Arabia, like those kind of Muslims from the Middle East. It doesn't matter. It's the government that's failing the government. It's the government that's failing the general population, because they protect people like you and your brother, and I would suspect your mother, because I do believe that your mother took the bribe money through a fake car accident, because that's another thing I witnessed when she rolled up with that stupid brand new car, acting like some freaking 55-year-old gangster bitch, trying to intimidate me out in my front yard. I got that video up online too, right? As she was rolling up to, drop off Amari? So he could sleep and sleep and sleep and sleep? Or was it because to drop off so he could cry and cry and cry and cry and cry? Which one? Because if he wasn't crying and wouldn't stop crying, he was sleeping, and I couldn't fucking figure it out. And then one day she just, I'm not gonna pick up Amari no more because Judy don't want me to see him. That's bullshit. She stopped picking up Amari because your brother stopped going for the visits, got that on recording with your cousin. Because it was your cousin who was looking after Amari, not your mother, not you, and Julian was nowhere to be found in the last 3 visits, including on Amari's birthday. And on Amari's birthday, first birthday, that's when you and your mother and Julian dropped the ball before your mother did, and you did. And then tried to blame me. As she's rolling around like some gangster bitch with her brand new vehicle because of her fake car accident, which she ended up getting a huge buyout and then managed to go buy herself a little house and got herself out of that co-op fucking condo you guys were living in for 50 years. Doesn't take a brain surgeon. It's called laundering money. Hush money. That's what it's called, hush money.
Thank you very much.
And what? You get it when your mother's dead? You said it in one of your other videos. One of the ones you deleted, more than likely. Well, when my mother's dead, I get the house. Well, yeah. Your brother's dead, so it all goes to you. Oh, you're a little rich bitch. Huh. So what? Means nothing in the great grand scheme of things.
Whether she may want to bring the baby over or not. It's not her kid. She already had and raised 3 kids of her own. Keep that in mind. With that being said...
So now you're saying your mother didn't want to see Amari. Yeah, well, that's up for debate. Convince that if you ever should run into Tisha, say, my mom never said for her to have ShaMay come to the house. Yeah, Tisha will be like, what the hell are you talking about? I was there. I was the witness. I couldn't go to the clinic without your mother bothering me. As soon as your mother seen me at the clinic, that's the first thing your mother said. Well, tell ShaMay to bring the baby. I haven't seen the baby for a long time. 6 fucking months. Why didn't your mother see the baby for 6 fucking months? Because your asses beat her up when you had her for those 2 days at the house as you were taking your name off the birth certificate, for crying out loud. Yeah. 6 months. 6 months later, she does the right thing. She goes to your mother's house, brave on her own, because your brother was a freaking coward and a scoundrel, and you guys murdered her. And that's just the bottom line. And yeah, I've been holding down the fort, doing the daily grind, putting my life on hold, working like a damn dog, just so that I can be there for my grandson. And what have you guys done? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Got on your merry lives, got money here, got money there, all rich bitches in the neighborhood acting like little thugs. Still, to this day, making threats on me. You, that is. Your mother just wormed off like the worm that she always was. Living in her bubble. Yeah. But at the end of the day, it's her cross that she's going to have to carry. She produced demon seeds when she popped you 2 out. Yeah. And she fed you that racism that you harbor in your heart. Oh, well, a white cop ain't going to cut no crooked deal with a crooked black drug dealer. Doesn't make sense. It doesn't compute, because the white cop, even though he's crooked, will always be racist and will never work in partnership with a black drug dealer. Bullshit! Bullshit! Crooked is crooked as crooked as crooked could be. Birds of a feather flock to freaking together. It isn't always what's on the outside that counts. Sometimes it's what's on the inside. And both of them were corrupt. Julian gave them what they wanted, a dead body. And they gave him what he wanted, to go off in the community and kill more people and be the drug dealer that he was so that he could brag. Yeah, about being what, a little freaking Mac Daddy? Yeah, right.
Mom saw Tisha, and you can ask Tisha too. We can get Tisha on the record, and we can get my mom on the record if you like.
What do you care? You got away with murder. There is no record. The government threw it out. Yeah, said it was statute of limitation. No, because the paperwork was filed within the proper time period. It's just COVID got in the way and covered it up. And if it wouldn't have been that, they would have found another excuse. Because it's big business in the province of British Columbia, Canada, to have 17 kids die like that. With another 17 kids die like that in a different freaking block. With another 17 kids die like that on another block. Forget about district from district. We're talking from block to block. And then they bring in the immigrants to fill up the gaps, to make it look like it's a thriving, happy freaking community. Yeah, right. Where's all those kids? Where do they go? They're dead. From block to block to block to block to block, right across this freaking province. And who's being targeted? Black people, white people, and native people. Those are the three main targeted groups. Yeah. Because they are the supply for the demand. And who's the demand? The Punjabis, the Chinese, the rich Caucasians, and the rich Muslims. Everybody else is under that caste system and are the supply for the demand. And when your number's called, they will find a sucker like someone like Julian to do the job. Yeah. ShaMay wasn't the first person who died around ShaMay. ShaMay wasn't the first person who died around Julian. There was death around Julian. His best friend's mom. Cops went in there, roped everything off, taped it off for, with their crime tape, did their little investigation, but Julian had already ran off with the safe and was trying to bust that stupid safe in my garage. What was in that safe, I'll never know. All I know is he left it in the freaking garage after it was all busted up, and I threw the stupid thing out. But there was a price to pay for that. Yeah, his friend's mother was dead. That was the first death. And then, I don't know, maybe there was another one, maybe there wasn't, but ShaMay was next in line because her number was called. Yeah, her number was called. Cops don't care what color you are, right? They're either going to give you a green light to be a dirty bastard or they're not. He should have been in jail long before then, but he wasn't. He was roaming free, plotting and scheming who he was going to kill next. Because after ShaMay, who was it? It was your supposedly, quote-unquote, stepbrother through mother dating that man, right? And you bonded and said, oh, he's my little brother. And what happened there? He ate the dope to cover Julian's ass, and then Julian sitting there with the cops doing whatever, and they ran off to the freaking park, and that boy died in the freaking park as your fucking Julian brother was trying to make him puke up the stupid dope. And then there was another death after that, related to your brother. The cop don't care though. Big business. Clearly, 17 young people that Tisha knows, and that's just off the top of her head. There's more. And it makes her want to just leave the freaking country, because the country itself is corrupt.
My mom said, oh, how's ShaMay and the baby? Asking how they are. My mom said, if I was ShaMay, I would be using me as a babysitter. And because ShaMay wanted to get out of the house and hang out with her friends that do drugs, Amber George, because, remember, I have her cell phone, right? The cell phone should give me $50.
What are you talking about? This is new information. Is this when ShaMay went to your house for that few days so that the rooms can be switched over, and you guys beat up ShaMay and tried to steal the baby, and you wouldn't give her back her phone, and she ran out the door and came back home after she got the baby out of your arms, and she left everything behind, and you're still to this day trying to say that ShaMay wanted to go off and party after she just had a freaking C-section? Like, you're retarded. You are like so freaking retarded. But don't forget, you guys, well, not you, but your brother was beating on ShaMay the second day that she got to that place after you guys took her freaking name off of the birth certificate before you pushed send to the federal government. As you were telling your mom to phone a taxi so you could beeline out of there with the baby and kidnap the baby. Like, regardless, you came back 7 months and you killed ShaMay. 7 months later and you killed ShaMay. You premeditated and you killed her. You and your brother. That's it. That will never change. Never. Never. And let it be a warning to other people who watch my videos, how easy it is to have hood rats come into your life and you don't even want them there. You can't even scare them away because they keep coming back like a dirty cat. And then, yeah, something stupid like that happens and you don't know, because who would know? Who would know that her cigarettes were laced with medical fentanyl? Who would know that the guy would sneak back in even though he hadn't been around for eons, and then all of a sudden magically shows up with some sorry-ass excuse. Next thing you know it, your son or your daughter are dead. With the cops covering it up and blaming the victim, victimizing the victim twice. My videos are a loud warning. Whether it's a friend to a friend, a mother to a son or a daughter, or a father to a nephew or a niece or whatever. If it's somebody that you love and it ain't fitting right in terms of how they died, this is where the public has to start standing up and fighting back and speaking loud and proud and calling out the freaking crooks. Whether it's the professional, the dirty cops, or whether it's the hood rats, the drug dealers and the little hookers in the community that want to all be all big and bad. Yeah. You were working at those towers. As an escort. When you weren't dancing at Shakers.
The cell phone I gave her $50 for so she could go buy drugs.
Oh yeah, right. Well, is it $50 or is it $150? Because the last time I seen a video and I did a little something there, I read under your description it was $150 and then $200. But you know what? This is all old news. That doesn't take away from what you and your brother did. No, it just doesn't. So it doesn't really matter. So go ahead, talk.
I asked her for $50. Let's remember that. She was texting Amber George, telling Amber George that she's coming to Gateway High Rise to come and party with her and to get her a bottle of wine. Correct?
Okay, after all these years, all of a sudden she's going to Gateway High Rise or someplace like that, as she's just got out of surgery. She's at your house, right? So that, you know, rooms can, and she wants us to go drink wine. Yeah, okay.
Right. She was also texting Paige about drinking while pregnant. Let's not forget that. I have those text messages. So stop selling a pipe dream. ShaMay this, ShaMay that. Yeah. Shut up. Mind you.
I gotta take a break on this, people, because this girl is just nutball. Seriously. Okay, so I'm not going back and forth on petty crap. This already been rehashed That's the point of that playlist. Only I haven't had any time to be adding anything into it because we've already talked about all this crap. And the way things are going, you're coming in with new information 8 years later, calling out other people's names that you never mentioned before, bringing it back to the day when ShaMay went to your place and ran out of there 2 days later with a bunch of bruises on her body, with just the baby in her arms, with you holding ShaMay's phone and refusing to give it back to her, with all the stuff sitting at your place because she didn't even have time to take that. She just had to run, bolt, leave, fast, ASAP, because of the way you guys were abusing her. And that's just a fact. Okay? I don't think she had any time to go off and do drugs and drink, being that she still had stitches. So I don't know what the hell you're talking about. So in the meantime, I'm going to listen for a little, and if I feel that it's wrong, I'm just going to say wrong. I don't know if I want to get into this petty crap. Because at the end of the day, there is no statute of limitation on murder. Now, whatever's going on in my life, I've already said, I think there's an undercurrent where I am the example for grandparents to be wary of fighting for their grandkids, thinking they're doing the right thing, to only end up being targeted by a corrupt system that clearly doesn't value grandparents, simply because poor grandparents don't even qualify for legal aid unless they can come in with legitimate paperwork to become a party to the proceedings so that they have a right to fight for their grandkids in the first place. And then if they happen to win and get their grandkids because they had the stamina to go to court 22 times to get that grandchild, and finally get that grandchild, and then have to put up with the crap that comes after the fact with loose screws and on a rail and yada because, you know, you got to prop up that middle class lifestyle with that tax-free income as a foster care parent through a non-profit charitable society that has all the expenses paid for, while those foster care parents lived in those monster houses, because that's where they put Andre. He was in a big-ass monster house through a non-profit charity that all expenses were being paid for, while that foster parent was getting income to look after Amari tax-free. And that's what she did. So when she was driving around with her van, her tinted windows, and the kids went to the windows, she had like 4 or 5 car seats in there. So she had a lot of foster kids, so she was raking in the dough. I did a video on that one. It's a racket. As a matter of fact, that's what they do in the United States of America with those Mexican kids on the border. These people just roll up in their freaking tinted vans and start scooping up all these little children, throwing them into the vans, and then just rolling off and disappearing into the abyss, where something like 86,000 or 125,000 of those Mexican children being trafficked across the border just disappear. Literally disappear. And social services, child protective services don't know where they are. So that tells you what kind of system we're dealing with. And that's because there's over 380 million people in the United States of America compared to 40 million in Canada. So of course our numbers are going to be lower, but it's the same system. Okay? They just maybe do it in slightly different kind of ways. Either or, I don't know. Whatever you're talking about here is like petty, and it doesn't remove the fact that your brother beat ShaMay up on the second day that she was there. You stole her phone, wouldn't give back her phone when she's saying, "I'm leaving, give me my phone." You said no. She had to fight to get the baby out of your arms, as you told your mom to get a taxi so that you were going to leave and kidnap the baby, but ShaMay managed to get the baby out of your arms, and she left everything behind and came back home. And that was it. That was pretty much it. And then your mom didn't see Amari for 6 months, 6.5 months, until she started badgering Tisha at that clinic when Tisha was going for her checkups. "Oh, I want to see the baby. Tell ShaMay I want to see the baby." Tisha would show up 2 weeks later. "Oh, tell ShaMay I want to see the baby." Yeah, your mother was badgering Tisha. ShaMay asking Julian to take her because she felt uncomfortable being around your mom, because your mom had an attitude or whatever, and Julian didn't want to do it, but ShaMay did it anyway, and you were there, you laced her smokes, and that was it, because you and Julian had already planned to kill ShaMay, because ShaMay had sex with Freddie a month before you killed her. And that got your goat, and that got Julian's goat, and you thought that by getting rid of ShaMay, Julian could come the next day with his mom, pick up the baby, and it would be game over. No, it will never be over. It will never be over. And as regards to what's going on with me right now, with whatever I'm dealing with MCFD, well, there's a part of me that thinks, because I'm getting close to the truth as to how he was injured at the time of his birth, in terms of medical negligence through the healthcare system, right? The government doesn't want to acknowledge that either, any more than they wanted to acknowledge the illegal apprehension of Andre, any more than they wanted to acknowledge the medical kidnapping of Uncle John, any more than they wanted to acknowledge the murder of ShaMay and illegal organ harvesting, any more than they wanted to acknowledge the illegal eviction of Sierra that turned her into an 8-year junkie on the streets that was pimped and used and abused until finally she was lured to her death so that her organs can be harvested. That's too much information for the province of British Columbia, Canada, as a quote-unquote government in the Parliament buildings in Victoria, BC, to wrap their heads around. Because if that blew out of the water and we start getting justice around those types of issues, then for sure things would have to change. They'd have to build more prisons, put people like Eleanor Gilding in jail, Dr. Bars in jail, those kind of people, dirty cops would have to go to jail, crooked social workers that like to cover up murder would go to jail, people like you, little hood rats, would go to jail, right? You know what I'm saying? And they don't want to rock that kind of boat, so they just do everything in their power to cover it up, okay? So in regards to Amari being injured at the time of his birth, why would they want to acknowledge that anything more than that they don't already want to acknowledge? Hell no, they don't care, because as far as they're concerned, they needed kids, in my opinion, to plug into that program at the Children's Hospital with that hip surveillance program that I talked about that they brought in 2015, implemented in 2016, and then, yeah, they needed the kids to sign up those kids to that program so they can get x-rays every 6 months as little teeny weeny children, monitoring their hips for something that never anything ever came out of it, as everybody's whispering in the halls that it was the mother that injured the child, when in fact it was the healthcare workers at the time of birth. So why would the government want that to go to court if you got an actual legitimate doctor saying, well, I've read the MRI scan, and based on my experience, the injury happened at the time of his birth or soon after. So yeah, I'm not surprised that MCFD is harassing me, because, you know, they know I'd go as far as to try again for Amari's sake. But what do? You guys have done nothing. Absolutely nothing. You make threats. Because you're a hoodlum. You like to attack elderly people. You like to intimidate little boys as they're growing up like Andre. Make him scared to look out the window because you might show up as you're threatening me. And for what? For what? What do you hope to gain from it? Nothing. You're going to gain nothing from it. Because whatever cross you got to bear, you're carrying that on your own. And sometimes justice finds its own way. And that's what's going to happen with you. Right? It will never be settled in court. The problem is too big. 17 young people dead that Tisha grew up with. Whether they were friends or acquaintances, it doesn't matter. And that's off the top of her head. In other words, she can name more people. She is so depressed that all her fucking friends that she grew up with are dead. Right? I want to get away from... I want to get out of this province, Mom. I want to get away from this country, Mom. I don't blame you. Why do you think I'm going to the U.S. consulate if the shit gets fucking dirty, down and dirty? Why do you think I'm going to the U.S. consulate? Because I want to get the hell out of this country and blow it out of the fucking water and expose it for what it is. Whoa, you're at the U.S. consulate. Why do you want to come to the United States of America? Well, I'm coming in as a political refugee, okay? It's not safe in my country. My family is not safe. They're targeted for illegal organ harvesting because they're half white and half black. Has nothing to do with racism outside of a caste system where you got a whole bunch of rich Punjabis moving in, a whole bunch of Chinese moving in that are rich, a whole bunch of Muslims that are moving in that are rich, buying up everything where everybody's ending up out on the freaking streets. So the social workers have a lot of jobs, more jobs than they need, because where are the kids going? Into those certified foster care fucking houses. To prop up a few white people so they can run around bragging about how fucking rich they are as they, look after abandoned children? No, the children aren't abandoned. The children were apprehended illegally as the parents are being forced out into the streets by hook or by crook. And then when they fall and they die, it's their fault. Just another statistic to those 17 young people. Yeah, right. From block to block to block to block. Forget the district from district to district. It's block to block to block. Right across this whole freaking country. You either stand for something or you fall for nothing. And once I get to the States, if my family wants to come and get away from the riffraff of Canada, well, maybe it might be a little easier for them. If I don't make it, because I'm in the underground, what's that called? The underground, the underground train? You know that thing, right? Paving the way. I've got miles to go. It's treacherous. It's dangerous. I might not make it, but at least I'll try. And I'll fight the good fight in the United States of America, hoping just maybe I might be able to find a freaking lawyer that's got some damn balls and is an actual justice freedom fighter and stands for something. Because you ain't going to find it in Canada because they're too busy waiting for people like your mom to show up with their funky freaking car accidents to cover up murder and illegal organ harvesting so they can get bought off with blood money, hush money, and make a quick buck. That's the kind of lawyer that you're going to find out here for personal injury. As the government covers up murder. Yeah. Yeah.
She was doing speed, thank you very much, with Amber George. So stop that, Julie, stop that. Anyways, I'm happy to be pregnant, and I don't want Amari because I got my own baby.
You couldn't handle Amari. He requires a lot of work. It's called that daily grind. Yeah. And don't think you're out of the woods yet, because your baby might come out freaking Down syndrome, this syndrome, that syndrome, blood disease, sickle cell anemia, who knows? Or maybe end up being injured with cerebral palsy, whether in your stomach before 34 weeks, or maybe at the time of that child's birth. Don't count your chickens until they're hatched. Don't ever assume, as a pregnant mother, that everything will be okay.
You sit there and you say that we abandoned Amari. No, girl, we abandoned you. You say you can't sit there and say we abandoned.
Your brother didn't show up for the last 3 visits under court order. Your cousin was there. She witnessed it. I have it on recording. She was the one who was looking after Amari, right, as you and your mother just left him on the floor, and she didn't like it, and she picked him up, she changed him, she held him. And being that Julian hadn't showed up for the last 3 visits, I guess your mom got cold feet, realized that there was something wrong with Amari, because by that time, it was pretty as plain as day, because he was a year old, that he wasn't normal, and she just didn't want to deal with it, and neither did you. Got that on recording. What, you gonna call your cousin a liar? I don't think so. Because if it ever went to court, I don't think your cousin would lie about it. But the bigger fight is, when it comes to that kind of stuff, is the justice for Amari. Where if it goes to court and it's proven that the injury happened to him at the time of birth or right after, to which that's always been my stance, because I did give birth to 5 kids, and I was there with him developing, and I was there. I have the videos of him coming onto the table after being delivered, with him twitching and flipping himself off the freaking table as they're wiping him down from freaking with the blood and all that crap when they take them out of the stomach. So it doesn't take a brain surgeon to see that he came out injured, but it was one big cover-up, because that's what Canada is about, right? So whatever you got to say is bullshit. Yeah. What, was your mom going to keep coming picking up Amari even though Julian wasn't coming for the visits? When she didn't even want to pick him up and cuddle him and hold him and feed him and change him? That was your cousin who was doing that, because your cousin was living there. Yeah, and the reason she did it is because she already had her own kids and she knew what to do. And that's what she told Tisha as it was being recorded. That you can never change. That is a fact. It's one of those crosses that you have to carry.
And once we found out he had a disability, we left. No. How about you tell the truth? You were freaking out every time we came to pick up the kid, demanding that we drop him off because you didn't want to drive because of your eyes. But if you can't have the ability to pick him up and bring him where he needs to be and drop him.
I never wanted him to be anywhere near you guys. And if those social workers would have done the right thing when you and your mother and Julian called on me and we showed up at court and they were accusing ShaMay of killing herself versus listening to what I had to say, and then they bowed out because they didn't want to, quote unquote, get involved, where whoever got him got that $3,500 a month or whatever the hell it was in terms of a severely disabled child as a foster care parent. Because there's rules and there's things that they do through the court, right? They would have, right? Somebody would have gotten something. But no, they had to make it where he stayed with me. I put him on my little welfare check. I got a little extra $300 or $250 a month on my little teeny weeny welfare check. It wasn't very much. And I had to fight Julian in court with you by myself. As everybody's running around accusing ShaMay of injuring Amari. And now, 8 years later, I finally have a doctor saying, I don't think so. No, from my experience, yeah, from what I can see with the MRI, which is actually in the brain and where it's been damaged, this is something to suggest it was at the time of birth, being that he came out twitching and flipping and all this other crap, which I have video recording of that. I don't know, it must have been Julian who recorded it, because you weren't in the operating room, so I guess we can thank Julian for that one. So there he was a good dad, because he documented what Amari was like when he came out, right? It's a slam dunk, but the government doesn't want to have a slam dunk any more than they wanted a slam dunk with Uncle John, ShaMay, Andre, Sierra, nothing. No, they want to cover it, and use us, poor people, below a certain income level as a commodity, however they can use and abuse us. And Amari just happens to fall under that category. So therefore, why the hell would you even want to stay in freaking Canada, being that it's so damn corrupt? Well, go ahead, stay. You think your life is going to be one big honky-dory, happy-go-lucky, never have no problems, and just be sliding through life, and what? Go to heaven? Yeah, okay. Good luck.
Then that makes you unfit to take care of him. You can't ask us for favors when you're being rude. That's the only thing.
You're the one that was threatening to punch me out. You were the one that was threatening to come to my doorstep and punch me out. You were the one who almost punched me out when I went to pick up Amari with Andre. Just like you're now threatening me 8 years later that you're hoping that you will see me and that I'll see you. And being that you're a little hood rat that likes to go around threatening to punch out people, we already know what's coming.
That's why my mother told you she's only going to communicate with Tisha. You are somebody who's uncommunicatable. And for all the...
No. Your brother wasn't seeing the baby. He didn't come for the last 3 visits, including on Amari's first birthday. The court order was your mother was to pick up Amari so that Julian could be supervised. But being that he wasn't there to be even supervised, but your cousin was doing all the work because you and your mom just left Amari on the floor, your mom didn't want to be bothered with it. Because there's something wrong with her. So you just dropped the ball on him. Plus, you guys knew there was something wrong with him. You didn't know what it was any more than I knew what it was. But you knew. He wasn't crawling. He wasn't sitting up. He was a year old laying on his back. And you left him there. And it was your cousin who picked him up and cuddled with him. Not you, not your mom, and sure in hell it wasn't Julian because he wasn't there. So why would your mom come back and pick up the baby if your brother wasn't even showing up for the visits? Especially when she didn't want to be bothered with a child that didn't move. You can convince yourself of whatever, but the reality is, I got it on tape. You guys did nothing. It was your cousin.
Viewers, they can read and they can watch your videos. Just for example, your video between you and the social worker, how you're belligerently pushing and just being naggy and just not understanding where she's coming from, that's the type of person you are in any situation.
Yeah, and that's the kind of person that's going to put me on that underground train to the United States of America and pick up the good fight fucking there, where everybody's sitting out here talking about what a bad person I am because I didn't do this and I didn't do that, even though I'm not getting enough time to freaking do it, okay? Whatever it is, the demand is. Okay? Like, you haven't even had your first kid yet. Never mind take on a grandchild after the mother of your kid got murdered and then ended up with people like you stalking you. Go stalk yourself. You're an F-tard.
Situation. I'm pretty sure that's why Tisha and Mark moved out.
Yeah, we've been through a lot as a family. We bicker. They're knuckleheads like their mother. Yeah. But you know what? Tisha and her income with her hubby is $150,000 a year. Marcane's pushing $100,000 a year. Yeah? So they're not doing that bad for themselves. They're just getting caught up with the hype of putting all their self-esteem in a money. Thinking money's going to make them happy. Well, for all that money, they're not that happy. I'm more happy with less money, and the less money and money going, whatever, right? Like, I'm not afraid to get on that highway and go and fight for justice. Stand for something. People don't have a right to come into your house and tell you to get rid of this and get rid of that, especially when you're doing the daily grind. Right? There is no history of Amari being injured. I don't have, what is that called? Munchausen syndrome? I ain't running to the hospital every month saying, oh, there's something wrong with Amari. do this test, do that test, so I can get the attention of the doctors. If anything, I avoid doctors. I try and cut back on the x-rays, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, they want to give him, you know, this x-ray, that x-ray. And I'm like, hold on a minute, that's too many x-rays, just a teeny weeny baby. How do we know that all those x-rays that they gave him as they were doing their hip surveillance every 6 months, 2 or 3 freaking 4 x-rays every 6 months from the time that they got a hold of him under that program, right, for 7 years, isn't what making him not gain weight now? Because he'd come home hot and have a fever for a day after those x-rays, oftentimes. So I'd like no, like this time no x-ray towards the end, because it was just getting ridiculous and it wasn't solving any problems. It was just costing taxpayers dollars. It didn't stop the cerebral palsy from doing what the cerebral palsy does to the body for children like Amari. It was my duty to protect my grandson from being over-radiated. And what do I get? Criticized for it. Yeah. And so you don't have a clue.
Can't get along with anybody and you're always entitled. Hey.
No history of illness. He barely gets a cold. The only reason he got a broken tibia was because of those ankle bracelets that are inferior. Not my fault. That's their fault because they, you know, the way they make them. Right? And just the way Amari is. Sometimes you just have to accept things for what they are. Right? I didn't want to put him in a monkey tube. I don't want to lock him up in a freaking cage. Although I have to figure out a way. I think he just bounced onto the, he just bounced himself, I think, onto the mat. So hold on a minute. No. I guess I heard something else. He's laughing and giggling in there. He's going crazy, playing with his little talking bear. Are you laughing? I hear you laughing. Just giggling and laughing, making a bunch of happy noises. Yeah. And that's what I get harassed for. A happy child. A child that never gets sick. And if he catches a cold, he's only sick for a day or two. He's only had one puking bacteria virus once. That's it. It's not my fault he gets seizures. That's the healthcare system's fault. That has nothing to do with me. I'm the one that has to pick up the broken pieces and have that heart of steel. And the thanks that I get is being told that, what? I have furniture in my house, and I'm a little cluttered with this and a little cluttered with that because I had somebody move into my basement that was, I don't know what, and threw everything out or whatever and prevented me from going down there and doing what I needed to do. And I did food prep so that when the shit hit the fan, I could still have, even if I couldn't buy milk, cottage cheese, eggs, and those kind of things, I have that in powder form in my house, not including what I have in cans when it comes to milk products. So I ain't sweating it, okay? And whatever it is that these fire department people want, well, I'm already putting my head around removing certain things. There's a part of me that doesn't like it, and then there's a part of me that can't wait for it to happen. Those are normal feelings, right? In terms of, you know, that brown unit up by my stove. I kind of depend on that countertop, but once I remove that, I'll remove everything over here, and there's a countertop on the other side, which I plan on taking a bunch of appliances. I have a mill to grind wheat or beans there. I have a blender there. I have a air fryer there. And a few other miscellaneous things, right? Those are all going downstairs. And once that countertop is cleared off, and I get rid of this crap, there's the playhouse for the kids is going downstairs, I told you, right? Once that's all gone, there will be the original countertop. So when that time comes, removing that brown one that's by the stove isn't going to be an issue because I've opened up another one. But that ain't going to happen overnight, right? That's going to take time to do all that. So, you know, you're not anywhere near it. You're having your first baby. Try having 5. Try working on a nonprofit with 40 to 60 kids at a time with their families in terms of the whatever, right? Parents or whatever. Try doing park events. Try working with the homeless people. Try planting a community garden like I did back in 2000 and I think it was 7 and 8 up by the front room. You know what I'm saying? Try and appease your landlord for 14 years in a yard that you don't own, but you take pride in and want to make it nice not only for your family, but for your landlord, not realizing that it was requiring a 5-man crew when it came to landscaping and keeping up with extreme yard maintenance when it came to morning glory or when it's too gray or too green or whatever, right? I'm just saying. So, you know, like, yeah, no, he has absolutely no history with anything. So for all their turning stones over, looking for this, as a matter of fact, I think somebody's stealing my river rocks from my yard and turned it into a little business. You know how you go to the store and you buy a rock and it's nice and shiny with a little word on it? Somebody came and put a little rock on my steps that said success. Andre said, "Matt, did you put that there?" I said, "No." And I'm finding that my buckets are being emptied out that had river rocks in them. So now I got somebody coming into my yard stealing river rocks so they can paint themselves some rocks, I guess sell them. Now that's crooked. That's crooked. But yeah, no, Amari, no. They can't say that he's at risk for, you know, whatever it is that what they do say is 1984. Right? Nobody is immune to having a fire on their property in terms of a lifetime. You live your life, some of them have, most don't. Right? You cannot assume that it will happen. Because if you assume that it will happen, then that means you want it to happen. And once they put it in their minds that they want it to happen, then they have the excuse to come in and do what they're doing with me right now. When they don't even have the right to say that it's going to happen. They can't assume, right? Now, I'm not sweating it because I have 11 questions, honestly I do, for the fire department, you know? And I'm in conflict right now with my neighbors because there are people there that are just stuck in their ways, and regardless of their situation, they're comfortable with it. And I guess they don't feel that they need to grow, right? In terms of wanting better for themselves, wanting better for their friends, wanting better for their community. I don't know how to explain it other than that, right? They just want to keep the status quo, be in control, and therefore I'm the misfit. I don't fit in with that fray because I want to take it to the next level. And if I could get into a community center of sorts to build onto program development to meet the needs of the community, then that's what I'd like to see. But they're not anywhere close to that because they're comfortable with their lifestyles. They're comfortable with the group that prop up the lifestyle. They don't see it as a problem because they live from day to day, and maybe they're getting ahead, some of them, I don't know. It's not for me to say. All I know is I'm still going to ask those questions from the fire department. I'm still going to work on program development to my capacity at this point, assuming that the house doesn't implode and I have to walk out. Because if I walk out, my son can move in and they can deal with it with or without the help of MCFD. And then it's a whole new ball game, because I will find a way to leave the country if I can. and I'll take the good fight outside of the country, because the country needs to be put into check when it comes to illegal organ harvesting, medical kidnappings, illegal apprehensions of children, the targeting of vulnerable families, the injury of vulnerable children without governments acknowledging that that's happening, right? You know what I'm saying? And just using us poor folks as a commodity to prop up the wealthy and their demands, as the country is being bought up by foreigners when they're not already being bought up by the landed immigrants that are already here and already have the system in place to rent gouge, overinflate housing market, and put people like your color more and more out onto the streets, and including my color when it comes to quote-unquote being white trash. So it's not anything personal, okay? For some people it's personal, but for me it's not. It's about being a justice warrior and trying to do the right thing for all people and not siding with the crooks, whether they're the rich crooks or the poor crooks. You happen to be one of the poor crooks. And whatever you think that you're establishing with your home ownership, well, welcome to debt slavery. You haven't even gotten a taste of it yet. You haven't even gotten a taste of it yet.
That's not my issue. That's something that you have to work on. Maybe that's why you collect disability, because there's something mentally ill wrong with you. No one really knows why you got disability, because you say you're working, you say you're out in the field, blah, 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 blah. You don't, if it's not you getting money, it's not working. You outside is not a job. Grow up. You also yapping off your mouth saying...
Well, I don't know about that. Why do these foster care parents look after children and get paid for it and it's tax-free? The government makes it tax-free to retain the quote-unquote worker. A stranger opening up their door for Tamika Johnson Dixon's baby because MCFD scooped the baby up after they realized that your nails were inappropriate to change the freaking diaper. And you refuse to take off your nails because your self-esteem is all centered around your nails. That's how asinine it can be, like that loose screw on a rail. How are you going to explain that one when the time comes? Well, you can't change the baby's diaper. You got 2 inch worth of nail, fake ones at that. No wonder why the baby got hurt. Child abuse. No, it's not. It's fashion. Yeah, right. Just using that as an example. Oh, but right, the baby will be raised in a daycare setting. Those multi-daycare settings that they have in Alberta. Yeah. Where there's like 15 kids, ages from infant all the way up to age 4. Yeah. So you can go and do your 9-to-5 job.
What's your full-time job? You can hear it right now.
Laundry. Dishes. Recycling. Sweeping. Organizing. And then when the summer comes, spring comes, well, guess what? I'll be out there pulling morning glory. Doing whatever. Whatever I can do, I do. Yeah. It's called the daily grind.
Here, I got keys. I open up a shop type shit. Okay? Nobody would ever trust you to do anything like that.
What did you say? You opened up a shop?
Okay? Nobody would ever trust you to do anything like that.
No one would ever trust you to do a thing like that.
Right now, you can hear it. I got keys. I open up a shop type shit. Okay?
What, because I'm talking about a community center? Nobody would ever trust me? First of all, I'm not even going to be around that much. I'm just giving them the legitimate paperwork to be able to work towards that goal. The only thing is they're comfortable with their situation, and that's nothing I can do to change that, right? And I suppose they have a plan for the future. What that future is, I don't know, but it is what it is.
Here, I got keys. I up the shop type shit. Okay? Nobody would ever trust you to do anything like that. I count the safe. I'm the one who counting the money in the safe. So, girl, say what you want to say, but I've already moved on, like I said. But I mean, this is the only way that you can keep this whole facade alive, is if I partake in the back and forth with you. And you're more than welcome to...
No. First of all, you've been silent for months. So it doesn't really matter. You're just a creeper. You've always been a creeper, right? No, what I do is I remind people how easy it is for their children, their grandchildren, their loved ones to be murdered. That's what I do. To not take things for granted. To be aware that not everything is face value. And if for some reason one of their loved ones should die, don't be gullible and just accept what the police or anyone else like the police feed them when their instincts and their reasoning and common sense tells them otherwise and points a finger towards the direction of murder. And if they feel like their loved one got murdered, then they need to find the fortitude and the strength and the determination to stand up and fight for justice. Because if they don't fight for that person who died through murder for justice, there might be another one in that family who will end up being murdered, like Sierra. I have two. ShaMay was murdered by Julian and you. Sierra was lured to her death and murdered. Both of them were illegally harvested, to which the government doesn't want to be acknowledged in court, because then they'd have to go around, start arresting the Dr. Bars, start arresting the crooked cops, start arresting all the healthcare workers that conspire to cover up illegal organ harvesting when dead bodies are on beds after being illegally embalmed in a hospital. They'd have to clean that shit up. And they don't, because it's a system, and it funnels millions and millions and billions of dollars through the underground economy, which props up the housing boom, to which that only benefits a few people in terms of a small minority group, mainly immigrants to one degree or another, whether they're already established in Canada or whether they're coming in with fresh money through, foreign investment. Yeah, and that's why there's more than 17 people that Tisha is aware of that she grew up with from 8 years and up, like as being an 8-year-old, and up, who are all dead. But you don't notice it though, because all you see is a whole bunch of immigrants running around these days. Go look for your friend, you won't find them, chances are they're dead. Go look for somebody that you went to school with. Chances are you won't find them. They're already dead. Because the government covers up murder. And your family is the perfect example as to what happened to ShaMay. And that's just a fact. And I remind people of that. I've never gotten no justice for ShaMay. So why wouldn't I keep talking about it and put it out there? As a warning, at least there I get some satisfaction. ShaMay didn't die in vain. Same thing with Uncle John. Uncle John didn't get medically kidnapped, die an old, broken, lonely man in vain. Same thing with Andre. Andre, if you feel at 19 years old, yada, 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 you have the right, there is no statute of limitation, to take MCFD to court for what they did to you and your mother and the rest of your family. Don't ever stop and think that you can't stand up and do that, right? Okay? That's justice, because as far as I'm concerned, Andre never got no justice, right? My family were broken because of what happened to Sierra. Never got no justice. Sierra never got no justice. Sometimes justice has to come in a different kind of way. So if I can save a few people along the way, just so that, oh gee, my son is sick, there's something wrong, why is he falling asleep? There's like, he's not, what's here, let me smoke a smoke and see what's going on with your cigarettes. Oh my God, I'm getting a wave of this and a wave of that. There's something wrong with your cigarettes, son. You need to stop it and go for a blood test and find out what the hell is going on. And maybe that will prevent a murder. Because it was the fentanyl that slowed ShaMay down to the point where she couldn't defend herself because she was being drugged, right? And Julian just came up from behind her, whacked her on the head, knocked her out, and then probably, well, he didn't knock her out, he probably just stunned her. And then he looked her in the eye as he was shooting her up with a speedball, because that was his lifestyle. That's why it's called hot capping. That was his lifestyle. But he didn't get to that point by himself. She had to be subdued first. And that was the whole point of the medical fentanyl, which was in her cigarettes. If I would have smoked one of her cigarettes that was laced with that medical fentanyl, I would have felt it right away. That would have been the red flag. But I didn't smoke them because I had my own. So how would I have known what she was feeling other than what she was telling me? But who would have known that her cigarettes were laced with medical fentanyl? Because who does that? Hood rats. People who premeditate murder do that. People who know that they can get away with murder because our governments allow it to happen, because they victimize the victim twice, as they accuse this and accuse that to distract away from them being the crooks themselves when it comes to the cops not doing their job, yada-de-yada-de-ya. Yeah, no. It's a warning. It's a warning for other people to seriously take it serious and to never forget.
Enduring me and my family, I know, like, I'm your sick obsession. And I love that. I love that you love me so much. Absolutely. And I love that every day you look at Amari, he looks like Julian. Like, I love that for you. Every single day. And then
well, when I look at Amari, I look at Amari. I love Amari. That's it.
Next thing I'm going to say is strung out. Girl, I'm sober. I can even get a copy of my blood test and everything too. We could do that. Next time I go to my maternity meeting.
Oh my God, you're still so childlike in so many ways. As if I'd want to see your blood test. Do I really care? I don't think so. I'm thinking about my freaking dishes, for crying out loud.
Her appointment, since ShaMay had no medical care while pregnant.
No, that's a lie. She was going to the clinic where your mother worked. But for some strange reason, the hospital records said she had no medical care, which makes me seem to think maybe your mother snatched up on ShaMay's medical files and destroyed them, being that she got that big buyout from ICBC car accident claim and magically went off and bought herself a huge monster home, right? A year after ShaMay was murdered by her son. So what better way to launder money? You know what I'm saying? And she didn't look too injured to me, because when she was coming to pick up Amari with her new vehicle and acting like some badass gangster bitch while she did it, I don't know where her injury was, but talk about playing a fast one on, committing fraud when it came to personal injury. But that's where the big money is in British Columbia, Canada, is car accidents. So nobody should be surprised.
Let's not forget about that. And it's a lot. I don't even dog ShaMay out for it, honestly. It's a lot. I gotta go to, dietitians are talking to me. I got my OBGYN. I got the maternity group. I got the hospital. That's a lot. My main family doctor. I mean, did you get those papers yet? Can you show proof that ShaMay had pregnancy prenatal care? Can you show proof of that? I mean,
well, I didn't fill out the Freedom of Information for that clinic where your mother worked. I got distracted. But if I wanted to, it's easy enough to go to court, because you see, Dr. Vicinci distracted me because he wouldn't give me the medical files from the clinic, and he told me to take them to court. And of course, you know, things were going on, and I do that daily grind, whatever. So anyway, in terms of dealing with that problem, it would be simply going to court, going in front of a judge, filing for this, that, so that I could get any kind of information I wanted to based on the judgment of my request, and I could backtrack and get those files. But I'm at the point right now where I just keep up with the daily grind, right? Because it's very, very time consuming, to which would break your back, considering all things said. And now that there's a doctor that can read an MRI, you know, I'm kind of just leaning towards, if I work on anything official like that kind of stuff, you know, official paperwork, it would be on behalf of Amari more than anything else, and his, you know, future prospects. Now, that's not to say that I wouldn't backtrack and file another lawsuit, because there is no statute of limitation on murder, to hold my government to account so that they can start protecting the citizens of this province, being that 17 of my daughter's friends are dead, and that tells you something. And those numbers are not dropping. If anything, they're increasing when it comes to young people dying. But, of course, I'm barking up a dead tree, because the corruption is so deep that, you know, I have to pick and choose my battles. And my battles are usually laundry and dishes and that kind of crap. And then when I get pressure put on me to become superhuman and super grandma, I have to be super grandma now, you know, muster up energy where I can put in 15, 16-hour days to accommodate 1984 demands, on the assumption of, well, this can happen, and this can happen, and this can happen, and this will happen, because we know, and that's the excuse why you have to be super grandma now, right? Well, it's not like I have a lot of time to do paperwork, but I can still warn people, I can still remind people of what's out there and how things can happen right under their noses without them realizing that it's happening. And when it's premeditated, I mean, clearly it's not just one method. There's multiple methods that are being used to murder people, right? Because nothing stops that from happening. The government allows it to happen because it benefits their workers that work in the healthcare system and dote over dead bodies that are embalmed, that take out organs with their own operating team, like in Dr. Barr's case and his cohort, because it takes 2 doctors to sign off on a death certificate. Both of them were involved, but it was Dr. Barr who was the surgeon, a gynecologist that came in from Vancouver with his own operating team to take out the organs 7 hours after ShaMay was dead. Yeah. And that's why she looked so messed up when you went in there with your brother and Julian, and you seen it. She looked like a bloated whale. Her skin was like rubber. She had little poke marks that were bleeding red out all over, up and down her arm. She had that big-ass freaking Band-Aid up by her jugular vein on the right side, and that's where they put the embalming tube in to flush out the blood and then to flush in the embalming fluid. And that had a big-ass Band-Aid that was leaking blood. You seen it for yourself. You know she was dead. You just don't, you've already said there was a big difference between your brother, stepbrother, when he went to the hospital and died and was dead, compared to what you looked at when you walked in at 9:30 or whatever it was. They were running late. That's why she had those little blood marks all over, up and down. The only reason on her arm, up and down, like all up and down in here, the only reason you had all those little poke marks was because when they embalm somebody, the fluid can't go into the extremities the way it should. So they take these really long-ass needles and they go in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out, and they squirt it with a little squirt gun to fill up the embalming fluid in the arm. And what did the nurse tell me when I called them on it? Oh, we were trying to find a vein, but her blood turned to water. That's why she had all those little poke marks on there. Hell no. It was because they were rushing. They were running late. And that's why you had to wait with your family, and I had to wait with my son. And you got in late because we were 9 o'clock. You didn't get in until 9:30, and you were only there for 15 minutes because Aunt Marcane and we went in at 9:45, in around that time. They were running late. That's why all those little red marks. But no, you don't want to acknowledge that. I mean, seriously. Right? Instead, you're too busy trying to cover your ass.
Out of all the years that have passed on, you should have been able to provide that already. Hey, come on, girl, stop this.
No, I don't have the energy to go to court to fight Dr. Wyszynski to get my daughter's medical files, because if my government did the right thing, they could have gotten those medical files from wherever. They could have gotten every single... What about when she was having abortions? My government could have got all those medical files, could have gotten all from that clinic, which was downtown. They could have gotten all her medical files from the clinic in Surrey, plus they could have gotten all the medical files from that prenatal clinic. That's what I was hoping for, that they would have done the right thing and did a thorough investigation to root out the criminals. But they didn't do that. They're too busy harvesting young people out here, one after another, as they bring in tens of thousands of immigrants to cover up crime.
Stop this girl. And why would me and my mom want to take care of a child that ShaMay chose to do drugs with that is handicapped? You wanted him so bad for a check? That's your responsibility now. Collect.
Like I said, you haven't even given birth yet. You might be the statistic. I think it's 1 out of every 1,000 births come out with cerebral palsy in Canada. You might be that 1 out of 1,000 births where you're going to end up with a little Amari. And what you going to do then? Who you going to blame?
But I will see you soon.
Oh, so there you go. You're threatening me again. You will see me soon. So let it be documented. Why? What reason do you have to see me? I don't want to see you. I don't like you. You're a bad seed. You're dangerous. You have no morals. You're a hood rat. There's no reason for you to come around me outside of you're a stalker. And you got brain munchers that make you psychologically sick. There you go. She ended her video on a threat.
Drinking warm water before bed improves eyesight almost overnight.
Okay, so we're going to end it on the threat. I've been putting up with this ever since ShaMay's been murdered.
Can you show me for that? I mean, out of all the years that have passed on, you should have been able to provide that already. Like, come on, girl, stop this.
No, it's the government's responsibility to pull up all her files, do a thorough investigation, and go after the crooks and put them in jail or demote them from their positions of authority, whether they're surgeons, nurses, constables, or whatever. But the government won't do that because they need the underground economy to prop up the general economy.
Stop this girl. And why would me and my mom want to take care of a child that ShaMay chose to do drugs with that is handicapped. You wanted him so bad for a check, that's your responsibility now. Glad. But I will see you soon.
No mail order bride last